And now, the starting lineup of your favorite show. At producer, 5'11" from Blanchester, the Cow Killer, Casey McCollister. And comic engineer, standing at 4'8", the pride of the West Side, Elliot Rearing. And your host, weighing 150 pounds, soaking wet, from Hamilton, Ohio, Ace Fowler.
Well, welcome in. I told myself as I came in today that I was going to be a ball of optimism. That no matter what I had said up here, I was going to try to find a way to spin it and make it something that you could find a way to make your day better. And as soon as I got in here, I realized that probably wasn't going to be the case. But nonetheless, we're going to do our best to try to make you feel as if opening day is just 2 days away. I opened up the Bird app yesterday, and I guess it's not the Bird app anymore. It's really just the X app, and I see something that irks me, and I just make a post about it because I think this year going in, the things that irk me, I need to figure out whether or not it's a me problem. If I'm, like I said before, I might just be the old man that yells at cloud about certain things that happen in the game of baseball. But nothing irks me more than when you have the traditional sense of what you're supposed to do in a game of baseball, and you execute it flawlessly, and then for whatever reason we've thought we've figured out a better way, and because we've thought we found out a better way, it stops us from executing something you should have done 98 out of 100 times, maybe 99, and maybe some would say 100 out of 100, but we are human, so there are mistakes that are made. But this is Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. We come your way every single day from 10 to 12. Nice job, guys. And we have the cast of characters as usual in here, and including Lindsay. I asked Lindsay what she'd like to talk about, and I don't know if we got a direct answer, but we'll get into that later in the show. But I want to get ahead of something. You know when you have some kind of a controversy, you try to get ahead of it. We'll talk about Shohei Ohtani here in just a bit. That's not what I'm actually talking about. Shout out to Pete Rose. Semi-funny comment yesterday. Although the video that he was in was kind of semi-creepy. It kind of was like a little weird transition there between the guy that was holding the camera to show him the video. You could clearly tell that Pete had said that joke about 3 minutes before, and the guy was like, "That's hilarious, man. We got to get that on video." And he pulls his phone out, and they take about 2 minutes just to try to figure out how to kind of open the phone and get the camera facing them. And then once they figure that out, they make the video. We'll talk about that. The rosters. We're going to get them set. Cincinnati Reds, we're going to have an opening day roster, 26-man. We'll talk about that. And the NFL. They continue to make rule changes. Do we like them? Do we not like them? And it wouldn't be a show of Off the Bench without talking about the NFL, and the chat getting absolutely incredibly mad at us for talking about the NFL while simultaneously our numbers rise while talking about the NFL. Then gambling problem. 1-800-GAMBLER if you have a gambling problem, 21 plus in Ohio. I laugh because I look up at the screen and it just says gambling problem in the bottom. I mean, that could go a whole host of ways on this show. Let me tell you.
Range.
There's
a wide range.
There's a wide net there. Turns out yesterday the two top stories on ESPN for quite some time were two gambling issues.
That's correct.
One obviously with Shohei. The other with?
His name is Porter. This is a guy named Porter. What's his first name? Jonte Porter.
Jonte Porter. Turns out he has props on him, and he was trying to manipulate those props.
That's correct. Real quick, do you want to go through the rundown of yesterday's sports? A lot of big sporting events yesterday. So, yeah?
Well, I know that there was some big sports. Yes, we'll talk about that.
Well, I was going to do my little rundown.
I'll tell you what. I think that is if you want to do the rundown, we'll do the rundown, and then we'll get in. Then we're going to get into the thing that irked me yesterday on X.com.
Oh, goody. Okay. So let's do the quick little rundown. Women's college basketball, they have a tournament, and it's going on right now. Paige Bueckers, they do. She leads UConn to a 72-64 win over Syracuse. Iowa, they held on against ace-seeded West Virginia. West Virginia started the fourth quarter on a 10-0 run to tie the game, but it was all Iowa after that. Caitlin Clark had 32 points. Unfortunately, Iowa did not cover their spread, and I lost my bet. Very, very sad there. Men's basketball. Seattle beat Evansville 71-57 in the CBI. Fairfield, they barely hung on against Chicago
Don't laugh
State,
about that now.
77-74. Postseason basketball. This is the best. Postseason basketball.
That's what we all want. That's what we all want.
Arkansas State, they dominated Montana 74-61 in High Point. They crushed Cleveland State 93-74. That's all the CBI. And PFW also won. What a tournament! What a storied season for them. NBA, the Celtics, they were up 30 points last night. The Hawks in Atlanta, they stormed back.
Did they?
120-118. What a victory! What a special moment. Donte Divincenzo, I think I said that right, of the Knicks, he hit 11 threes in their blowout win of the Pistons, 124-99. Shout out to the NBA. They've got two teams that legitimately just aren't competitive whatsoever. They just show up to each sporting event every night, and they just lose hard. The Bearcats, they take on Indiana State tonight, 9 p.m. Indiana State is a 3.5-point favorite at home.
Who are you taking?
I'll be taking Indiana State.
Really? Is that a hedge of the heart, or?
That's correct. Hedge of the heart.
Now, I want to warn you. I don't know if you've actually thought of this. Now, I'm not trying to belittle your intelligence, but I am going to warn you that you do realize that if you're rooting for a team that's getting a few points, you can win both ways.
You certainly could. You certainly could, but
you could also get burnt the other way. Just so you know.
Yeah,
you take Indiana. You take Indiana State tonight, and they win by one. I'm trying to warn you. I want you to know this. I don't know if you've thought about it, but you could actually lose both.
You play a dangerous game when you gamble. Trace bets one bet, but then does like 4 bets of that one bet, and then I don't know how he does it.
Well, it's called middling.
Yeah, but it's sick.
Should we do that? Maybe we'll do that later in the show for the gambling problem. I feel like we could actually talk through this together, and we could just wrap it all up in one. I've tried to explain to Elliot this. It's not even really a big. First of all, let's get out in front of this and say there is not one single thing that you can do outside of going and stealing chips and doing legit theft and fraud to get over on the sports books. Okay, They've thought of everything possible in regards to trying to manipulate it or think that you can come up with some. Listen, every system has risks, and that's why you're basically gambling. So I'm not suggesting that this middling thing that I've tried to explain to you, which is really not that complicated, but I'm not trying to downplay that its complication, because in essence, when you're not able to figure it out, then it really is a direct reflection on your intelligence.
Sure.
That's not what I'm going for.
Sure.
But I am going to say out front that when people get to this whole thing that I'm talking about, they're going to be like, that's it? That's what we're talking about? And I'm like, yeah, I've tried to explain this to Elliot 3 times. He acts like he gets it. That's one thing that Elliot will do to you. He will listen to you. He might ask one question. And then after you give him an answer to that said question, if he still doesn't understand, he drops the, oh, yeah, I get it. He doesn't get it. And then he leaves, and then he comes back a day later, and then he realized that he never actually understood what you told him in the first place. So then you're back to square one. I think that's very fair. That's not a bad thing.
No. Wow, that's great. You made me look real good there. Hey, Casey, get that clip of Caitlin Clark for me real quick, because I forgot to mention that when I was going through the score. Caitlin Clark, shout out to her. She's a humble young woman, and no clip shows that more than this one. Run it. I don't know what she's saying there, but it's the audio. You can't really hear her, and it's hard to read her lips. But looks like she was just having some fun.
You have a problem with that?
No, I loved it. I just said I loved it. I thought she was real humble.
Well, I wasn't sure if that was like a very, very facetious thing you were doing there.
No, I'm not sarcastic. Georgia, they're taking on Diebler and Ohio State in the NIT quarters as well. The Buckeyes are 8-point favorites. Shout out to Diebler. Will you at least admit I was right about Diebler? Because nobody was more right about Diebler than me.
Really? I don't remember what you said about him.
I said Diebler was going to not only get this job, the starting head coaching job, but they were going to make some noise in the postseason. Now, I didn't tell you to specify which postseason it would be, because I didn't know if they were going to make the actual one. But they made the NIT, and they might just play Cincinnati for a semifinal or a championship. I don't know. I haven't looked at the bracket because the NIT doesn't matter. But shout out Diebler. That's your rundown. How about that? Sports.
Fair enough.
It would be great if the MLB season could start, though.
Well, I think that we've found ourselves in this position the last few weeks. We understand that, and that's okay. We can have fun with our friends here on a day in which probably there's not a ton of sports news. Now, we could get in knee deep into the college basketball tournament, certainly, but the problem with that is ultimately you're going to talk about how bad it is.
Yeah.
It's going to be a C+. C+, by the way, I was thinking the other day, C+ isn't it? It's not really not a bad grade.
It's average. That's what I was saying.
Through school.
It was an average tournament. It was an average first round. Listen. C+. If you have a C+, you can graduate. So You're fine.
What about the grading scales at some of those schools where they take like the 77s of the world and that's a D? You know what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah. Well I don't know.
Those schools got to be the worst.
My grade school, it was a 90. You had to have a 93 and above to get an A.
Really?
So it wasn't just 90, 91, 92. You had to have a 93. In order to have a B, you had to have an 86. 86 to 92. And then a C was, I forget, I think it was like 80 to 84, 80 to 85.
Isn't that just all Catholic schools, to be fair?
Yeah, maybe. I feel like other Catholic schools were different.
You were locked in, though. You didn't really worry about other Catholic schools. It was all Elder.
Yeah, I was just
all Elder all the time.
Well, it was Vizzy. I went to Vizzy and then Elder.
Okay.
Elders was a little bit different, I think. And the Elders, I think it was 90 was an A.
Vizzy sounds like some kind of hard seltzer.
No, Vizzy, Our Lady of the Visitation.
Gotcha.
It's something to do with Mary, I believe.
Right.
My Catholic education taught me right. That was a special time. You
could take that multiple ways. All right, back on track. So yesterday, there was a season ticket holder scrimmage that if I was a better steward of the season ticket group, I probably could have offered those to somebody, but I didn't realize that that was only for season ticket members. But that's here nor there. The thing that came out yesterday, Caleb No, shout out to local reporter here. He put out a video. I was getting ready to reference his channel number, and I just wasn't 100% sure right there, so I just aborted immediately. I'm pretty sure it's 9 though. He put out a video yesterday of obviously at the end of the game there was a double play situation, and here's the thing: I would love, and I've seen Kirby in the comments, and this is great. I want there to be more. I want there to be as many people that do this as possible. Now, the only thing is I got to make sure that it's actually 100% true, because sometimes people suggest things that aren't true, and therefore I'd like to see with my own eyes. But I want to know every single time that when basically the infielders do not play double play depth, and I get it, maybe the rest of the league does it. I don't care if the rest of the league does it. I really don't care. I just want to know what happens for the Reds. Okay? But you have, what they ultimately do is if there's a left-handed hitter up and there's a runner on first base, they will shift, even though it's a double play opportunity, they will shift the second baseman over towards the first base bag quite considerably, so far away that they're not able to get to the second base bag if the ball's hit to the left side of the infield like you traditionally would since the game's been played for a very, very long time. Instead, they assume that the shortstop will be able to take the second base bag if the ball's hit to the third baseman, which the third baseman, again, is shifted over, kind of in that 5.5 hole area. So if it is hit directly to the third baseman, no problem. Shortstop runs over. The shortstop takes the bag. They turn the double play that way. Okay. But what happens when the ball's hit to the shortstop is the question I ultimately have. And this is the goal of the pitcher when they're throwing the ball. Let's be honest. If Jake Fraley hits a sizzling missile right, I'll call it the 3.5 hole, the opposite of the 5.5 hole, between the first baseman and the second baseman, if he hits a sizzling ball over there, sure, maybe Jonathan India is able to catch it, and it's hit so damn hard that he still has time to be able to throw the ball all the way to second base, and then the shortstop can then throw it all the way back to first base, and you get a double play. Maybe that's possible. But the ball has to be hit very hard for that to happen. So if that's the case, and that's what we're trying to eliminate, the pitcher certainly isn't attempting to try to get the ball hit hard off of him. So what happens when he executes flawlessly and he gets a rollover ground ball, or he gets a ball that, quite frankly, fists a guy and it rolls to the shortstop? What happens then? Well, yesterday it happened. And we'll keep track of it, because I already know the other side of the aisle is going to be like, well, you think these guys are idiots? I don't know. That's their full-time job. Well, okay, that's fine. But I also, again, and this is where people will laugh at Trace, but I also know at one time there were people that said smoking wasn't bad for you. You want to go through all the litany of things? You'd think we live in a country where you can point back to where experts have told us things that weren't true at all. Now, I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole today, but you know where to go to find that information. Go ahead, run the clip. This is exactly what irritates me when it comes to these, I don't even want to call it analytics because I think that's disrespectful to the game. But that's a double play. 100 times out of 100. Jonathan Indy is nowhere near there. And sure, you could say safe out, whether it doesn't matter. I'm not arguing whether he's safe or out. I'm arguing that he should have been out by 2 feet. Now, am I going to get up in arms about some spring training fake baseball game we've been playing for the last half month? No. But I'm wondering if we keep track of the other side of the consequence. Do we keep track of that? It's hard to do that over a course of 162, I understand. But we want to sit here and we make fun of Dan Campbell when he goes for it on 4th down time and time again. And all of a sudden you have a certain population of people that are like, I don't know, that doesn't seem like the right play to me. But the math says that it works out. Well, it did work out for the Lions. They're sitting on the couch.
I'm trying to find out if the shift is scientifically efficient.
I don't think it's possible to figure out if it's scientifically efficient because, in my opinion, the data on a lot of those things can be misconstrued. My question then ultimately would be, let's just say, for instance, I'm going to throw out another hypothetical. And I don't know that situation, to be fair, right? But let's just say the winning run was at third base right there. Yeah? You're trying to turn to double play. If Jonathan Indy is in the hole, if they hit him a ground ball, what are the chances that he's able to turn a double play from where he catches the ball at? He's got to throw the ball all the way back across the diamond to second base, and then the ball has to get returned all the way back on the other side. I'd rather take my chances and that just be a base hit through the hole over there than to ruin the opportunity of getting an ending double play. But we shall find out.
Evan says they have the best player tracking data in the world.
Okay.
So it sounds like they have the data and they have the numbers. And then the numbers tell you to put Jonathan India where he is.
Okay, but my question is does the numbers and the data actually still quantify the situation of the game? Or is it just nothing but a calculation? Like, that's my genuine question to the analytic community. Does it actually consider the time and the score and all of the other things that go into a baseball game?
He says there's lots of expected stats.
All right.
I don't understand analytics. I try.
Well, I think that they're.
I try my best, but there's so many of these things that, like Wobacon. If I have to read anybody who has a Wobacon, you lose me because I don't care. I don't care what anybody's Wobacon is. I look at average. I look at OBP. I look at slugging. That's it. Defensive alignment is one thing. Didn't they ban the shift? Is the shift still banned?
Yeah, they banned the shift, and that's going to be a reason as to why some people will say, well, then why do they ban the shift if analytics don't work? Okay, I'm not arguing that clearly there are spray charts in the world. Yeah, there are spray charts. Guys hit the ball to certain places at certain times, most of the time during certain situations. But it's like, why do you bring the infield in sometimes? The analytics say that the numbers go up, there's a better chance of getting a base hit when you bring the infield in. We all know that. Batting averages jump basically about 100 points when you bring the infield in. But why do you do it? Because the situation calls for it. Why do we not play double play depth when the situation calls for it? That's what I want to know. That's all I'm going to ask. And I want to know, and again, it's going to be hard to do because there's going to be a debate on whether or not they could have been here or there. I want to know what would have happened if the Reds would just play traditional double play depth when there's a double play situation that they want to try to accomplish.
That's fair.
That's it.
That's fair. Other Reds news: they've set the starting rotation for this season. Trace, are you surprised at any of the names on this list? It is Frankie Montas, Hunter Green, Nick Martinez, Andrew Rabbit, Graham Ashcraft. And I believe that was all that was possible.
Correct. That was all that was left because of injuries. So
that's correct.
Go
Well,
ahead.
I was just going to say the current roster includes those guys I just mentioned. Obviously, Nick Lodolo's on there. He is not ready to play yet, but he is on that. Relievers, we have TJ Antone, Fernando Cruz, Alexis Diaz, Buck Farmer, Pagan, Sims, Suter, Wilson. Catchers, we have Maley Stevenson. Infielders, Candelario, De La Cruz, CES, India, Steer, Espinal. Outfielders, Benson, Fairchild, Fraley, Martini. We are missing one man. That man, we don't know yet. But Martini is on the roster, so we will need one guy.
Yeah, it makes you wonder where Ford. I guess is Hurtabees gonna get is
I would
gonna be the guy.
I would give it to him. I like Hurtabees. You put him out in the outfield. I love it. If Stuart Fairchild starts struggling, that's what we'll need. That's interesting.
Bubba Thompson.
Bubba Thompson. I don't think Bubba Thompson's gonna make the team.
Really?
I don't think Bubba Thompson's making the team.
Be careful by saying that.
And why is that?
I just think that clearly David Bell likes Bubba Thompson. I think he's kind of shown that through the opportunities that he's given Bubba Thompson.
Nick Kirby with a note. Nick Lodolo is making 2 minor league starts and expected to be ready by April 10th.
Yeah.
April 10th. Evan Maurer says Blake Dunn. No, I think Hurtabees would be a good one too. So whoever they decide, really, are they going to matter that much? Probably not.
That's where I'm at.
Yeah,
I guess that's where I'm at. I've been beaten over the head for so long about what's this going to be, who's this going to be, and we've debated, and the next thing you know, one guy gets hurt, this guy gets hurt, and the next thing you know, we debated for the last 2 weeks is irrelevant now because one guy's hurt. I'm just pick somebody out of a hat at this point. Let's just play. Can we play? I can't tell you how much I just want to play the game of baseball and watch them play and figure it out from there. Jonathan India going to play second base.
He might.
Man.
He might. I think he plays left field. I think Steer's coming to the infield. I think India's going to the outfield. But even if you do that,
yeah, you're still not accomplishing.
That's what I'm saying.
I will say, just sometimes you get into a position where you're just like, I'll take anything but that. And I'm not trying to this isn't a slander Jonathan India statement. I'm just saying that at some point you might just say, you know what, let's at least give Spencer Steer his puncher's chance over there for a little bit of time just to see. Maybe we'll get lucky. Maybe he'll be better than we thought. Maybe there was some nerves that were involved there at the beginning of his career. I don't know. Jonathan India, you know what you got over there, though. That's the thing. Like, he's played over there long enough now to where you know what you got.
Correct.
And I guess that's where most of my pessimism and just my sadness, I guess, for lack of a better term, comes from, is that I love Matt McClain. I mean, I can't tell you how much I really love that kid. And he's a great defensive second baseman. Like Gold Glove caliber second baseman. You go from a Gold Glove caliber second baseman to a guy that probably shouldn't be playing second base. Like, that's the drop off that we're getting. So that's where my disdain comes from sometimes. And I guess we're still waiting on this opinion here.
That's correct.
So I don't know when that's ultimately going to come. I'm just assuming, and I guess I'm being Mr. Pessimistic for saying this, but it just feels like we're not. Matt McClain won't be available towards the end of the season. I don't know. I just don't get it, man. I don't know. Why can't we have nice things around here sometimes? I guess that's where I'm at.
That's fair. We also have Hunter Green speaking yesterday regarding on the possibility of him becoming that ace that everybody talks about. So here's Hunter Green.
You know, I have conflicts here and there within myself of like what that really means, you know, and obviously for me, like, there's been glimpses of that, you know, where I've seen it within myself. Every day that I show up to the field, that is my mindset. But, you know, that's a tough label to put on somebody at such a young age. I embrace it. I've always wanted to have that extra pressure or, you know, that position or that title. I just think that it's dangerous to kind of try and grasp that so early on. As you see a lot of guys that have been given that title, you know, whether it's within that organization or that team or in the clubhouse, there's guys that have thrown, you know, a lot of innings and have thrown complete seasons and have either been Cy Youngs or All-Stars and all that stuff. So I totally see myself in that light, you know, but truthfully, there's things that I have to do in order to truly prove that, and I know that. So personally, like, I love the idea of it, and I want to be that guy, but I know I have to hit checkpoints in order to truly be called that within a clubhouse, and I have no problem with that. I want to earn every right to have that title.
All right, so I think a lot of things that he said there are pretty good reflections of himself. The only pushback I'd have on some of that is that Frankie Montas is the opening day starter. Frankie Montas has not really proven a whole lot this organization, but he has proven before that he can throw the ball really, really well. The question is whether or not he'll be able to bounce back and be the guy of old, or is he going to have some kind of new era within his chapter of his baseball life? I hope not. I hope he can get back to what he looked like when he was in Oakland, certainly. But more importantly, maybe it does light a fire underneath Green. Certainly, I've had that in my life at times. Maybe many of you have had that in your life at times, where you feel like you've been given an unjust situation, and it sparks something inside of you that otherwise maybe you couldn't have gotten before. That's happened to me, definitely. There's no doubt in my mind. Sometimes the best motivation for me personally is when others say that you can or can't do something, and for whatever dumb reason, I can't get myself to a place to go there unless someone else does it for me. And I'm not saying that's going to be the case for Hunter Green, but if Hunter Green needed any kind of motivation at all, you'd like to think that perhaps that would be it. Now, I'm of the camp that I don't know if it's really that big of a deal. I don't know if having you being the opening day starter kind of seems like semantics a little bit. It kind of feels like maybe you're the starter at the beginning of a college basketball season, and you're the fifth starter, and the sixth man there's a debate whether or not the sixth man should be the starter or you should be. I mean, over the course of time, we'll find out. Put it this way: when the playoffs roll around, whoever gets the ball in game one is going to have little to nothing to do with whoever the opening day starter was. It's going to be everything about whether or not you threw the ball well throughout the year. So I don't put that much stock into this. Now, I do understand as a competitor why Hunter Green would want the ball on opening day, because it's one of the few times, and I don't want to make it sound pessimistic towards our city, but let's be honest. It is a big deal in this city.
It's a massive deal.
And I think that it's a good atmosphere to be able to throw the ball in. But I think it's also fair for David Bell to say, has Hunter Green really deserved the opportunity to be the opening day starter? And I would say that he has not. Now, it doesn't mean I don't think that he can be the ace. It doesn't mean I don't think he could be the opening day starter for the next 8 years or whatever length of time that he's going to be in a Reds uniform. Of course, he can be all of those things. But he's not proven, or he's not been grandfathered into this opportunity every single year based off of previous results. He's not done, I don't want to say he's not done anything. That would be disrespectful to Hunter. But let's face it, this Reds rotation doesn't have an ace until they prove that they are one. And right now there's a plethora of guys that has the ceiling to be an ace. Their ceiling is an ace. And I get the semantics behind the term ace. You could debate that all day long about what an ace is. Is an ace a guy that's a frontline starter that you could put up against anybody in the league and you feel good about, and you're relatively, that's not an area that you would be deficient in if you started a game off with them on the mound? Or is an ace just simply the best arm on a rotation, and there's 30 aces in Major League Baseball? That's a whole debate of, and it falls right in line with the same debate of what is an MVP. Is an MVP the most valuable player in the league? That if you took that player off their team, they would not be very good at all? Or is it just, quite frankly, the best player in the league? Now, those two things, some would argue, are the same. I think that they're different. Because some teams rely on guys more to do more things. They might not be the actual best player in the league per se, but they are relied upon the most, and they put their team in a position to win maybe more than the other. They're the least irreplaceable. I don't know where you fall on that, but I don't think the Reds have an ace, and that's not a negative thing.
No, it's not a negative thing.
That's just saying, hey, I don't think we're in a spot where we can say this guy right here is going to be basically the linchpin for the rest of the season on the mound.
No, I don't. Hunter Green is my age. He's 24 years old.
Very young.
Very young. Every single one of these guys, again, not maybe every single one, but a lot of them have the ability to be that guy, like you mentioned. And I think what you're seeing is a city that is losing patience. You want them to be good right away. You want them to be good right now. It takes time. It does. It takes time. And I know it's hard to be patient in a city that has not seen a ton of winning over the past decade and a half.
100%.
2 decades. So when you see Hunter Green, you see him get that contract, you're like, all right, why is he not good? Well, he's shown that he can be good. He's just so young. He's figuring it out. Give the guy a little bit of time to figure it out. Frankie Montas, I do think is good. I want to play a game with you too, right after I finish this, because I saw Bryce Spalding on Twitter yesterday do it, and I thought it was interesting. But no, I don't think you need an ace. I think we're past that. Jacob deGrom was the ace of the Rangers. Where's Jacob deGrom?
I agree.
And you go down the line, Justin Verlander, ace. Max Scherzer, ace. And it's like it's fickle because it's a long season. And really, by week 4, it doesn't really matter. The only time it's going to matter probably is if you're in the postseason and you need your guy. You need your guy more than you don't need him. So you need him on game 1 and you need him again to finish out the series. That's when the ace is going to matter. I do think there's an emotional aspect to it when you're in Cincinnati, and opening day is the biggest day of the year.
100%.
So Hunter Green, I'm sure, was not pleased that he lost that job to Frankie Montas.
Right.
But I think this city needs to calm down a little bit. And this leads me to my next point. There are guys on this team that people are down on, and there are guys on this team that people aren't high enough on. I want you to name the guys that you think people are too down on right now on the Reds. So I'll give you an example. I think this fan base is too down on Jonathan India.
That's fair.
I think a guy
that's come back around a little bit, though.
I think it has come back a little bit. I think a guy that people aren't high enough on is Spencer Steer. I think Spencer Steer is one of the more consistent players we have. Not a great defender, but he's going to play 158 games. He's going to probably hit around 275. He's going to show a little bit of pop. I think that's a guy that can become maybe not a staple in this lineup, but maybe the glue that holds it all together, at least for the first half of this season until we get everybody back. Another guy is Hunter Green. I think people are everybody. I feel like as soon as he signed that contract, there's something with contracts in the city. As soon as you get a decent contract, everybody's like, "Oh, you're overpaying. He hasn't earned it. What has he done? He better live up to it." And I think there's just a negative connotation for some reason, and I don't understand it. And a lot of it's the Reds Facebook community, and with all due respect, those people are weirdos and losers because you have a bunch of people that just don't get it. They don't get what's happening, and you're seeing the Reds change how they've ran their organization from the previous 20 years. It's a new direction we're going here. And you have to pay guys early. You have to pay guys early. A $20 million contract isn't a lot of money, and Hunter Green isn't making that. He's making significantly less. It's an incentive-based contract. I think another guy that the fan base is down on right now, and it might include me, Nick Lodolo. I think Nick Lodolo, granted he hasn't been...
All these guys you're naming, though, have been disappointments.
Correct.
I mean, but what do you want people to do?
Well, I'm just saying.
You want people to jump up and joy around the streets?
No,
and talk about
I'm just saying.
How great Lodolo's been. He's been hurt every year.
I'm saying.
This guy that's got drafted in the number 1 draft pick, Hunter Green, was supposed to be the next coming. He's on the Sports Illustrated. He gets hurt immediately after you sign him. He's not been readily available. And, of course, people are going to be upset about that. We live in the Midwest. That's one thing we live in the Midwest. There's a lot of blue-collar people. There's a lot of people that wake up at 5 a.m., they grab their lunch pail, they go to work, and that's the type of community you're talking about, where they put their 35 years in, their whole entire life. They're a one-income family. They come home, and you know what? They've had to bust their ass their entire life to put food on the table. They turn around. They enjoy a few things in life. One of them happens to be the Reds. They turn on the TV, and I'm not saying that this is right. I'm trying to explain the psychology behind this as to why people get upset when people sign contracts. You sign a contract that's worth $20 million, and they hear $20 million. They don't care about whether or not, they could care less whether or not that's a fair deal or not a fair deal. So you're going to have a certain population of people that are going to hear $20 million, and then, by the way, this guy's making $20 million. Meanwhile, you're going and you're working your entire life, and you make less than $20 million, and he's hurt all year. That's where the resentment comes from. It's not so much, it's it's more of, and sadly to say, it's more of a direct reflection of those individuals and the life that they've lived. And it's not a bad life. There's nothing wrong with it. But there's going to be resentment of listening to a guy making millions of dollars and not showing up for work, essentially. Now, they're not allowed to control that. I'm not blaming guys for getting hurt. That's part of it. But that's where the resentment comes from. That's where people, and I could be completely wrong about this, but I don't think that same thing happens in San Francisco because there's a different type of job there.
Correct.
People are making $200,000 and they're drinking coffee every morning and they're sitting in their, and again, people will make fun of my statement, but it's an example. They're sitting in their ivory towers and they're overlooking the ocean. There's guys going to in this part of the country, there's guys going to mines, they're going to weld steel, they're doing hard labor. And they're making, I'm not saying they're not making enough, but my point is they're making an honest income. They turn around, they turn the TV on, and their one thing that they care about has been for the last 25 years a worthless organization that has not done anything for them. There's going to be negativity around this franchise, and that's okay. But the other side of the aisle is you can't, and again, this is where I try to push back on the whole 25 years not done anything crowd, is what are you supposed to do about it now? It's over with. It's done with. That's the game we're playing. If this team could break through, Elliot, and this team could, let's just say for the next 2 to 3 years, look at the Bengals. The Bengals are probably the best example that you could use in this town about what it means to the city and what they ultimately desire. Could you find anybody saying a bad thing about the Bengals 2 years ago? No. That's all that has to happen in this town. And you're not going to hear about the $20 million complaining anymore. If this franchise had success, right? If they, I don't know, pick a franchise. I don't care who you pick. Let's just say they've been the Braves, which the Braves haven't won a ton of World Series, but they've won one. And they've been really damn good for a long time. You know what? I don't think the Joey Votto slander is anywhere near what it is. Joey Votto could have had the exact same career he had. And if the Reds would have won, and the Reds were in the postseason, which has nothing to do with Joey Votto, right? He's the exact same person. It's really what happens outside of him. The people that you're talking about who are upset at Hunter Green are the same people that probably don't like Joey Votto. They're not mad about the player. They're mad about the situation, in my opinion. And you know what? I try to give him a little bit of a pass. Is that fair or not?
That's fair. That's fair. And again, I am one of the more negative fans in this city. So
you're being Mr. Optimism, which I love.
I'm trying to be optimistic.
By the way, you're doing a great job. CES is my answer before we forget.
CES is the guy people are too down on or not high enough?
I don't think they're down on him.
Or not high enough.
I don't think that they realize the type of player he can be.
I agree.
That way. I think CES could hit, and I'm going to make a fool of myself. CES, over the course of his career, could hit 50 home runs.
Yeah.
That's a lot of home runs.
That's a lot of home runs.
For those that are keeping count at home.
I think
he could hit 35 this year. Easy. Rolling out of bed.
100%. I think another two guys that people are maybe not even down on, but not high enough on. We have Candelario, who, for all intents and purposes, hasn't been talked about a ton. Maybe it's because he didn't have a great spring training, but I don't think that really matters. That's a guy that's going to be important. That's a guy that is a consistent hitter in the majors. We need him to be good, and I think he has the ability to be good. I think he's going to break the mold that the Reds can't sign any free agent bats and have it work out. I think he's going to break that mold. Another guy is Jake Fraley. Jake Fraley is arguably, and again, I'd argue it.
Say it.
One of the more clutch players on this team.
I thought you were going to say he's the best hitter against right-handed pitching.
No, but he's one of them.
The answer, I think, is that is true.
I think he's one of them.
If he's healthy, he is the best hitter against right-handed pitching that this franchise currently has.
100%. And again, these are just guys that you're going to take notice of during the season, and they're not going to get a lot of tweets. All the tweets are going to be about India and Ellie, and it's not going to be a ton about them. It's going to be about Hunter Green. It's going to be about Nick Lodolo. When does he play? Those are the big names, but there's a couple names in this roster that I think are going to go underappreciated as this season goes on.
Craig in the chat says, am I secretly Gordon Wittenmeyer? No, Gordo's credentialed. I'm not.
Correct.
Keep going.
Other than that, thank you, Bryce. Bryce says I'm spitting. So thank you very much. That made me feel good. I'm just trying. Yesterday I was negative. I'm going to try to be positive today. That's what I'm going to try to do.
I think I've gotten to the point, like I said before, where I'm I'm ready to play meaningful games. Simple
I
as
agree.
that. Simple as that. We've done this song and dance for too long. I'm over it. We're all over it. It feels like we've been in the car ride, right? When you're like a little kid. You remember when you were a kid at some point, and you're on this long car ride, and in your mind, it's felt like it's taken 3 days, and it's really only been 3 hours, and you keep asking your parents, "Are you there yet? Are you there yet? Are you there yet?" That's where I'm at with this Reds season. Are we there yet? We're there yet. I mean, we genuinely are there. We're there. Now, there's a debate on whether or not who they should have for the 25th man. I think I'm just going to take a step back, and I'm just going to say, you know what? I think I'm just going to take the onus of it. I don't care anymore. Put whoever out there you want. You want it to be Hurtubise? Put Hurtubise out there. You want it to be Blake Dunn? Put Blake Dunn out there. If you want to bring back Ford, which is not going to happen, but if you want to bring him back to put him out there, go ahead.
I still think that's egregious. I think that's a preposterous decision that was made. There had to have been something else that factored.
They might have loved somebody behind closed doors. If you want it to be Bubba Thompson, let it be Bubba Thompson. I don't care anymore. But
a bench bat with that kind of power is
Can we at least agree, though? Can we all understand that there are so many things that we don't get privy information to, that we don't see?
Sure.
That might make a big difference. If we were inside the clubhouse or we were inside the organization, then we might see things that would make us make the same decision that they would make. I think that's more than fair to say. But you're right. I mean, you ask a guy to come to big league camp. I don't know. Pull up his stats, man. They're absurd. I'm pretty sure he hit 455 and had over 1,000 OPS.
1.2, yeah.
I mean, that's... Could you imagine being him?
Did he have multiple?
What is he, in his mind, what is he, when he's told that he didn't make the team? He has to go sit somewhere in a lonely room and just think to himself, what was I supposed to do exactly?
Yeah, there's nothing else he could have done. He had the best spring by far, and he still didn't make the team. The only thing I can think of is that what position would he have played, because our first base spot is kind of filled. I guess he would have played DH. He would have split time at DH. He would have come on. He was coming off the bench anyway. But I don't understand why you don't give a guy like that a bench role. And in the 8th inning, when we need a hit, we go to the guy that can hit a home run. I don't get it. I don't understand it. I don't understand it. But whatever. We play on as we head into opening day, Trace.
Yeah.
As we head into opening day.
Is Jonathan Indy going to be a second baseman on opening day?
He might be.
If that happens, that's where I'm at. I just.
But is that like? Can we give him a chance? Can we give Jonathan Indy a chance?
I'll try my best. I'm just so tired of it. I got to be honest. That's where my negativity comes from. Is that
Jonathan India?
It's not about him. It's about the fact that I thought we were over that. I thought we were done. It's like I went and got the car fixed 5 times. 5 times this car has had a problem with whatever, its transmission, right?
Yeah. Or
a spark plug's a problem. Let's say it's a spark plug.
My spark plugs.
It's not as big of a deal as maybe the transmission. But let's just say I've gone and I've gotten this spark plug fixed 4 or 5 times, and I thought I drove down the road and it finally was fixed.
Sure.
And next thing you know, I turn around and I go on this massive road trip that I've been excited for, and sure enough, I turn the car on, and what do I find out? I find out that damn spark plug's back. That's how I feel.
But what if that spark plug...
Here we go.
Try
to convince me.
What if that little spark plug gave your car all the power it needed, just that one magical time? It only takes one. And I think that's a good... And I'm glad you used the term spark plug, because that's what Jonathan India is. He's a spark plug. And he is going to spark and shine, and this city is going to be great again. The Reds are going to win on opening day against the Washington Nationals, and they are going to win the World Series this season. Mark it. And it's going to be on the back of the spark plug. In fact, I want his new nickname to be Spark Plug. Anytime you refer to Jonathan India, please call him Spark Plug, because that's what he will be.
Nick talked me off the ledge, and he said that Espinal is going to be starting at second base, which is great. That's great news. Because I don't know I've never seen Espinal play second base in my life. But I suggest and I think that it'll probably be better than what I've seen before.
Come on.
What?
He's fine. Jonathan India's fine.
I'm not saying he's yes, I am saying that. He's not fine. He's not fine at that position.
I do think the defense is a sizable issue on this team.
We'll find out. I mean, we'll
think the defense is a sizable
together.
What did Espinal hit?
I'll tell you who the biggest X factor is on this defense that we've not talked about at all.
Who's that?
Who needs to be good, and if he's great, that would be even better. Who do you think I'm going to say? There's one person that you should know.
The X factor on defense?
Yes.
Ellie?
Yes. If Ellie for whatever reason, and I get that the outs above replacement and the advanced analytics certainly push towards the favor that Ellie is the better defensive shortstop or the best defensive shortstop that this Reds team has. I'm not here to debate that. I'm not seeing him play enough at that position to really make a sizable take on it. But he needs to be good. Because if he's not good, God bless us. And I'm not going to go down that road. People are thinking I'm being super negative.
You really shouldn't touch that one.
I'm not going to go down that road.
You shouldn't touch that one.
But I'm just saying that if you were to tell me right now I could pick anybody to be great at their position, I wouldn't even pick Jonathan India to be great in left field. I would pick Ellie to be great at shortstop.
I can't wait for a certain journalist for any time
it's coming.
Ellie does one bad thing. Bad thing.
One.
He could hit 300, hit 50 home runs, steal 85 bases. If he has one play where he mishandles a ground ball, this reporter is going to be the first to write about it.
He is actually rallying the city around Ellie, and I do appreciate that.
I
actually think that's a good thing for this franchise. I think that it's become a bit now. There's no doubt in my mind, and I've actually respected him more and more the times he's continued to do it. Because if you go full heel, there's something to respect about that. If you're in the middle where you try to act like you're actually doing true journalism and you're trying to report on actual facts and you continue to do the things that he's done, then you find yourself in a problem. But if he goes full heel and he's just every single time something happens with Ellie that's negative, he just kind of has a little spiteful post about it, I got to respect it at some point. We can all just laugh about it. But I don't know if he's going to do that or not. We'll find out. Obviously, he's a Cubs fan, so there's part of the problem. But here's the thing. I don't really get too overly, I find it funny now more than I get upset about it. Like, if you read his posts, you can't take them seriously.
I don't read them. I try not to, unless usually usually it's Bryce or Evan who leads me to those posts, and then I will then see him and get a little upset. But I try my best not to read them because I know it's all hate. And that's okay. He's a Cubs fan, and he'll do what he wants. He'll support the Chicago Cubs, but write about the Reds. Either way, I try to stay away from it. I'm a negative fan, but I try to avoid negativity myself. Let me ask you this, because I want to continue the positivity train. What's the ceiling of this Reds team? What's the ceiling?
The ceiling?
The ceiling. Is the ceiling
the ceiling
roof?
is that TJ Friedel comes back in 6 weeks.
Okay.
He's the same. I don't even say he's better. I'll just say he's the same player that we had come to expect of him last year. Tyler Stevenson bounced back, okay, and he looks like the guy 3 years ago that we were all super excited about. And again, I hope that Tyler doesn't think that he has to be anything that he's not.
That's another guy. Tyler Stevenson's another guy that people are way down on, and that includes me, unfortunately.
Yeah, but I'm saying he let's say he bounces back.
Correct.
Right?
Yep.
Jameer Candelario exceeds our expectations. Okay? Ellie continues down the progression of being the great player that we all think and hope that he will be. CES falls out of bed and hits 35 to 40 home runs. Now, that's asking a lot. I get it, but let's just say that he does. You're asking for the ceiling. I'm giving you the ceiling.
Okay.
Jonathan India, somehow he plays hide and go seek out there in left field, and he does a serviceable enough job, and he continues to be either a good DH or he's a pretty solid swinging left fielder. Spencer Steer continues to be the guy he is, and Will Benson. I think the ceiling's higher if Will Benson becomes like an all-star type player.
Yeah.
And Jake Fraley continues to be the guy he is, and I'm not trying to make Jake Fraley to be the odd man out, but it would be nice to have some leverage at the deadline to go fill a hole that we might need, and you trade a guy like that. Now, I'm not advocating that he needs to go or anything like that, but I'm just saying it would be nice to have that opportunity at the deadline. And then every single one of these starters stays relatively healthy. I'm not asking them to throw 200 innings because that doesn't happen anymore. But my point is that you don't find yourself in a position where you keep digging into the well and you rush a Rhett Lauder up here. Now, I'll tell you what, I've watched Rhett Lauder throw at spring training. That kid's impressive. That kid is impressive, man. Like, the ball jumps out of his hand. I don't give a damn what the radar gun says. There are certain guys that have they throw a heavy ball, as they might say. Rhett Lauder looks like a dude. Now, whether or not he'll get an opportunity this year, I don't know. But optimistically speaking, this starting pitching has some depth to it that is more than capable of pitching in the big leagues. So let's just say, for instance, that all goes relatively well. And then the bullpen is probably the one that I have the biggest concern about replicating what they did last year because they were so damn good. So shout out to them for being so good last year. I think if you just get something average out of them, they win. Ready for it? Ceiling 98 games.
98 wins.
That's a lot of wins, man. But that's what would have to happen. All of those things would have to go right. And guess what? I hate to break this to you, but I don't think they're all going to happen.
Will Benson's a guy that people are really high on after last season. Do you think Will Benson replicates it?
I'm going to be overly optimistic and say that I think that he does the things that make us all excited about. Yes, I think that he brings energy.
Yeah.
He can get on base. He steals bags. Hopeful that he'll get a little bit better defensively. And you know what? He has it in him. That's the thing that I love about Benson over top of some other guys that I complain about all the time, and I don't want to keep dragging their name through the mud at other positions. There's potential there.
Yeah.
There's only so much you can do with slow feet. You can't fix that. Right? You can't win the Kentucky Derby, as I've said before, with the donkey because the donkey just doesn't have it in him. I think Will Benson truly is like a thoroughbred. Will Benson has the skill set in him to be a great outfielder. It's just putting it all together. Getting better reads on balls. He's got the speed.
I still believe in my heart of hearts that he's going to earn that center fielder job. He's going to get work there at some point during this season, and when that happens, I think people are going to like what they see. I think he's going to be able to hold down the fort until TJ gets back. So I'm excited for that. Other players that I don't know if we've touched on yet.
Yeah.
Your guy and Nick Kirby's guy.
Fairchild?
Stuart Fairchild.
I think Fairchild is more than a serviceable backup in this league. Yet somehow he's gotten thrusted into some people's minds as he's supposed to be a reliable starter. He hits left-handed pitching very well. I don't know what more you want out of this guy. He plays defensively, and here's the thing that stinks.
He missed that one ball in Chicago.
Exactly.
That I was there for.
And if he didn't miss that ball, nobody would say anything really all that negative against Fairchild. So I like Fairchild because I think that he fits a need or fits an area that's more than fine.
Okay. By the way, Craig just said 40 minutes of negativity and then 40 minutes of negativity and slander, and then ceiling of 98 wins.
Oh, what do you want me to be? You want me to give you the basement? Because I don't think you want to hear that.
No, you don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear it. I think that's it. I think we touched on everybody. I think we're going to be fine. Everybody calm down. Everybody relax.
Do you think that they could lose south of 75 games?
South of 75 games. So what would that be? What would our record be there?
I don't know. You do the math.
Yeah, yeah, I do.
All right.
I think anything's possible. It's a long season. The Cardinals were terrible last year. I had them winning the division. Speaking of which, who finishes in the basement of this division? Because I got my answer. And my answer is the team that just won it last year. I'm going with the Milwaukee Brewers. Basement, cellar, C at the bottom. They'll beat us, but they'll lose to everybody else.
I'm going to say it because I want it to be true again. And I get it. They're probably going to win the division. And I say that because I'm trying to jinx it. The Cardinals.
Cardinals finishing the bottom.
They did it last year. They were god awful. They got a bunch of retreads. They got a bunch of old guys. Let's not act like the Cardinals are. The Cardinals have a couple young guys, but I'm just saying in general, they're relying on guys that I'm hopeful. Like the Grand Canyon when there's those cliffs there. Like you're really really high, and then all of a sudden you take one more step and you wouldn't be high anymore.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that's what happened with the Cardinals. I'm hoping Arenado drops off the face of the earth. Not disrespectful to him or anything, his family, just saying in general for the baseball team.
Sure.
Goldschmidt, hopefully he falls off the face of the earth. They got Lens of the world that, again, they're retreads. Sonny Gray.
We'll see. Let's do ads, and then when we come back, we're going to talk about Shohei Ohtani and the other gambling stuff. Also, the NFL rule changes that are coming.
I think it's fair to say that any team in this division could finish last.
Sure, 100%.
I don't know if you could say any team could finish first.
I think you can. I actually think you can.
I don't think the Brewers have a chance of finishing first.
I don't think the Cardinals can finish in last.
Why not?
Because I think the Cardinals are good.
Really?
Yeah, I think the Cardinals are good.
Wow.
Let's do ads. We'll come back. We'll do Shohei. We'll do NFL rule
I don't
changes.
think anybody in this division's.
We'll see.
Are we going to use the word good?
We'll have to see.
Reed said yesterday that I know we're going to ads. We're going to ads. I don't hate ads, by the way. Reed said yesterday that the MLB put out their power rankings, and the team that was supposed to finish first in the division was ranked what? You want to take a guess at this?
You're talking record-wise?
Yeah. Are we just sitting in the NFC South right now, and we're all acting like we have great teams? Or is
88 wins? Is that the number?
No. I'm talking about where were they ranked in the MLB rankings? The team that was supposed to finish first in our division was ranked this in the entire Major League Baseball.
8th.
15th. Let's go to ads.
Oh, no.
All right. The Bengals Bearcats Encore Technologies report is brought to you by Encore Technologies. That was a really, really bad transition there.
You got it.
Encore Technologies provides IT solutions for a data-centered world with a suite of services from mobile computing to desktop to data center, supporting both centralized and work-from-home computing modules to improve efficiency and
productivity.
That's right, productivity. Visit encore.tech. The path to innovation begins here. And let me tell you about this lovely bottle of water right here. Hear that? It's Pawnee water, made right here in Hamilton, Ohio. Uses natural limestone filtration, unlike the artificial processing that other brands use. The result, a healthy alkaline water, and some say the best tasting water in the world. Visit Pawnee Water at PAHHNI-water.com, so where you can buy us great tasting water. And let me tell you about our latest sponsor, the Game Time app, the ticketing app. All last year I used this app to go from this job right after work, straight to the Reds games. It's 2 simple clicks, all the pricing's up front, and you get your tickets right away. You get to see where you're sitting at. It's one of the best apps out there. Go ahead and download it, Game Time app. Redeem code OTB for $20 off your first purchase. That's OTB, terms apply. Use code OTB to get your $20 off your first purchase.
Could come in handy for Reds opening day.
Very handy for that.
Which I believe Mouse said in the chat, $138 right now is the get-in fee, and it'll be standing room only. I still don't know if I'm going yet. I still don't understand the full plan of what's happening yet. So I don't know. My goal is to try to maybe get down there if I can. I would say it's a 50-50 chance. 50-50.
I'm probably going to have to pass if it's $130 for standing room.
Yeah, but $138 for fun. Can you really put a price tag on it?
I mean, I'm going to go to lots of Reds games this year.
Sure.
That I already know.
Sure.
I just don't know if I'm going to be able to make it to opening day.
Speaking of Bengals, you sent me something, and I want you to explain it to the people because I didn't understand it whatsoever.
I can do that.
I try to understand the NFL salary cap or the cap space in general, and I don't get it. It just constantly moves, and then I don't understand it. So our guy that we just signed, what's the deal with the cap?
So
Trent Brown.
Trent Brown was signed for, I mean, you could look at it roughly as a $4.4 million cap hit. But really, there's a lot of game day roster bonuses tied to that, to where he has to be healthy in order to get that money. So really, he's only effectively taking up like $2 to $3 million of your cap, which is just a steal for a guy like Trent Brown. It's quite clear that nobody was offering any contracts to this guy because we got him for such a cheap price. That might lead to some head scratching as to why that was the case. But for the Bengals, it's a great deal. I mean, it can be your starting right tackle or you can be your swing tackle. That money makes a lot of sense. A lot of people had him projected at that like $7.5, $8 million range. So this is about half of that, maybe even more than that, depending on how healthy he is the rest of the year. But overall, good deal. It means that the Bengals roughly have anywhere between $15 to $18 million if you take away the practice squad salaries and signing players for the draft.
Okay.
So we still have that money, that range of being able to find a guy or two or be able to extend some guys. So it's a good spot to be in if you're a Bengals fan. I wouldn't say that the free agency period's over with that signing.
Not over yet.
Not over yet. There's still opportunities out there.
So what you're saying is the Bengals are going to sign somebody big, and then they're going to go on and win the Super Bowl. That's what you just promised.
No, I didn't promise a big signing, but I did promise maybe a role player.
That's fine. That's what I heard. Also, tomorrow, some news and notes. Please like the show. If you're a positive Reds fan, you've heard some positivity about this team over the past 2 days. Please give the show a like. And also, if that's not enough reason for you to do it, like the show for Nick Kirby, who will be hosting tomorrow. Nick Kirby will be hosting Off the Bench. It'll be a special opening day Reds preview tomorrow. So tune in for that. That's just some news and notes regarding that.
Before we get into anything else,
Sure.
I sent you 4 or 5 Twitter DMs about the NFL rule changes because they just keep popping up on my feed.
Oh, there's more now?
Yeah, there's just more that I don't think we talked about for one yesterday because it happened like right at the end of our show, and I didn't realize those things had happened. And just more stuff is coming out.
Okay, so let's do that before the Shohei stuff because I have something to say regarding the state of gambling in America, and I was thinking about that yesterday coming in, but or this morning coming in. But Casey, let's start with the first one you sent me.
Okay.
And again, this is by Jonathan Jones. This is a real reporter. I'm not going to get scammed here. Yes, this is a real person. Finally, the NFL has approved a rule to allow a replay review when there is clear and obvious visual evidence that the game clock expired before any snap.
It also kind of ties in with the
Really?
last thing that I sent you. Look at the last DM I sent you and read that if you
The
don't.
last DM you sent me, the NFL Competition Committee Chairman Rich McKay told me the replay assistant will now be permitted to correct certain types of incorrect calls for roughing the passer and intentional grounding. Must be purely objective, and it was in parentheses here, QB wasn't hit in the head, was out of the pocket, etc. So there's now going to be somebody on the sideline that's watching all of that after the call is made.
Yeah, I mean,
That's big.
There's someone basically watching to make sure that there's not an incorrect call made, including the clock, the game clock. That's huge too, in my opinion. How many times do we get a guy that is right down to the final seconds and they don't hike the ball? It's such a micro fraction of a second when you're the ref. So now there's actually a guy watching it. I think that's a big deal.
I agree with you. I think that's massive. I'm also those terrible roughing the passer calls that we see throughout the year. Glad those are going to be changed. Jonathan Jones again. The NFL has changed the trade deadline by 1 week. The deadline will now take place the following Tuesday after Week 9 games. And finally, before we get to the bigger one, a new rule will allow teams to promote a practice squad QB to the active roster for game days as an emergency third quarterback an unlimited amount of times during a season. So you'll be good all the way through.
Yeah, no more Christian McCaffrey having to play quarterback. So
that is smart. But the bigger one, Casey.
Yep.
The bigger rule change in the NFL is that the kickoffs are going to be changing, and I wrote some things about this, and I'm gonna read them off to you now. So the new kickoff rule, so in 2023 there were a whopping 1,970 touchbacks and only 1,300 return yards. The committee felt that was unacceptable. The Bills, I'm going to give you an example, team. The Bills returned only 17 kickoffs for 340 yards this season. That was by far the worst and a franchise low. So this is approved. It was approved by the owners, I believe. Is that right? Who did it?
Yes.
The kicker will still put the ball in play from his own 35, but the remaining 10 players on the coverage unit will be lined up 25 yards ahead of him at the receiving team's 40-yard line on the restraining line. So that's going to look different. If you watch the XFL, I believe we have a little bit of a video here to show you what it's going to look like.
Yeah, I got what it will always look like right here. I'm going to play that now. This is what to expect moving forward. And then I've got a play of what the potential of what it looks like, what it can be, how explosive it can be. So here's what took place just last year in the second week of the XFL. Got some end-around stuff. Guy takes it all the way for a touchdown.
So it's going to be more of that. I really do. If you put your most explosive guy back there, there's going to be a ton of touchdowns on kickoffs.
Yeah.
I'm going to explain a little bit more.
A ton.
I'm going to explain a little bit more of the
Am
rules.
I supposed to let you just go right by that?
100%.
A ton.
Once the ball is kicked, none of the players, with the exception of the deep receiver, can move until the receiver either catches the ball or hits the ground. This alignment will greatly reduce high-speed collisions, so it's a player safety thing as well, making this more like a regular scrimmage play. Any kick that hits short of the landing zone, meaning before the 20-yard line, is treated like a kickoff out of bounds. The play is blown dead. The ball will be spotted at the 40. Any kick that hits the landing zone and then goes into the end zone must either be returned or downed by the receiving team, but if it is down for a touchback, it is only moved out to the 20. The old touchback rule placed it at the 25, so the return man may want to return this type of kick. If a kick flies into the end zone and stays in bounds, it can be returned or downed, but kickers will try to avoid this because if it is down, the ball will be placed at the 30. In the original proposal, the line was going to be the 35, but that was deemed too much of a penalty for the kicking team. A kick that goes out of the back of the end zone in the air or bounces will be a touchback placed at the 30. Not a great result for the kicking team. So just it's a completely new look for kickoffs.
Yeah, it basically makes it to where you're incentivized to try to push that kick as close as you can to the end zone, but not too far, because otherwise you're going to be getting a touchback that's resulting in a 30-yard touchback and not a 25-yard.
I can't wait till the analytics say that the chances and the probability of a return is going to go out to the 35 or the 40, and they're just going to blast this MF right through the back of the end zone every time, and we've changed nothing but moved the ball 5 more yards closer to the goal line.
Yeah, that might as well happen, but we don't know. We'll see. I think it's interesting.
Yeah,
I'm sure the XFL has some kind of analytics to this in regards to what the returns have been. You think there's going to be more opportunities for explosive plays?
Yes, 100%.
Especially in the beginning. I think, I know it's the NFL. These are the top of the line coaches, right? But I think because this is so new that players have never done this before, right? They've never grew up with this. Like they have nothing to fall back on to really, get them ready for something like this. This is going to be completely new for them this year. And on top of that, I mean, we don't have the graphic here, but they can be 2 backs in the backfield, which just causes more confusion, can cause more more distribution on sides that like you're flooding one side when you're not supposed to be because the ball's going the other way. Stuff like that.
I was going to say, I think that all those points are fair, but I think from a kickoff perspective, gone would be the opportunity of the kicker accidentally kicking the ball to the side or mishitting the ball and kicking it to a side in which the coverage team didn't think it was going to appear on. If you're standing down there at whatever yard line what are they on, the 35? What are they standing on? What is the defense, what is the kicking team's coverage team standing on?
I think they're on the 20, right? That's the landing zone.
But my point is, if they're standing right around the 20, 25, or 30 based off of whatever it is, you can clarify it here in a minute. They can just stand there and stare back at the kick, and they're going to be able to see where the direction of that kick is actually going. So I would suggest, or I would think, that there is a primary position where they would like to kick it, but if it does get mishit, the coverage team would be able to communicate or yell out loud, hey, we're changing it to basically up the middle coverage because the kicker mishit it. But as I said before, there's not a penalty for kicking it through the back of the end zone other than just putting the ball at the 30-yard line, correct?
Correct. So a kick that goes out of bounds through the end zone in the air or bouncing,
right,
it's on the 30.
30.
Which is 5 more yards, I guess.
Yes. So that's the key here, is that if it genuinely is an advantage for the offense to have an explosive play, I think that more times than not, the defense is going to rather give up 5 yards per se on what they used to give up than for the explosive opportunity of giving up a touchdown on the return end.
I agree.
We'll find out. We'll see. Yeah. I guess my point is that if this becomes truly a big opportunity for it to change the game dramatically, the player safety, we could say, okay, that's fair. But if it truly changes the game in regards to kickoffs and they're able to return the ball to the 40, to the 35, to the 50 consistently, which I don't think would happen. But if that were to happen, they're just going to kick the ball through the back of the end zone, and that's going to be the end of it.
The kicking team stands on the 35. The receiving team stands on the 30. So there's a 5-yard
cushion
distance
there
between them.
Yep.
I think what you're suggesting might be a little more difficult to truly do than what you realize, having to turn back and wait for the ball to drop. First off, your head's out of position. You're watching it fall. If you're not watching the guy that, let's just say Elliott is the guy that's 5 yards ahead of me, right? And that's my man. I got to block my man. I'm watching the ball drop. He catches it. There's that fraction of a second of you having to turn your head around. You don't know if he's going to go left, right. You don't know if he's trying to, get double teamed. Like, there's all sorts of different possibilities there for that person who has to block that guy. I don't know. I just feel like it's a little more difficult than maybe.
You're thinking it's a disadvantage for the return team, in a way, for blocking.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's fair.
Who do you think wins a championship? This was brought up in the chat. Fun little question. Who wins the championship first, the Reds or the Bengals?
God, I hate doing this. I don't know why. I'm not going to play the Debbie Downer here and be like, why do we do this? But I do genuinely wonder why cities do this to themselves. They cannibalize their own fan bases. We've done that. When we first started doing the show, it was all Bengals all the time. Everybody made fun of the Reds. That's 100% what happened. And then all of a sudden, the Bengals, they struggled. They had a poor season. The Reds just came off, missing the postseason by a single game. Joe Burrow gets hurt, and then all of a sudden Reds fans are laughing about the idea that the Bengals were supposed to be this great, unbelievable team, and then next thing you know, the Reds were the team that everybody in the city were excited for. If you had to put me up against it, we're talking about a Super Bowl or World Series.
Yeah.
It's going to be a Super Bowl.
I think the path is easier to get to the Super Bowl. That's the difference.
The two leagues are completely different leagues. I don't want to turn this into like super overly. I'm just trying to be like relatively real and realistic here. Like I'm just spewing genuine thoughts that I have. I'm not trying to be like somebody that I'm not. I'm just saying things that I think are obvious.
We're being positive today.
Well, I'm saying like the MLB in itself is a joke in regards to equality. It is a joke. If we can be completely honest, it is completely a joke. Nick Kroll could try to do things perfectly. And you know what? Guess what? The Dodgers can cover up the 6, 7, 8 mistakes that they made that the Reds could never cover up. That's the facts and the truth about the state of the game. And you can sit here and convince me that, if you make the postseason, anything can happen. And you're relatively right. But guess what? Everybody always points to, guess who? The Rays. Look what the Rays have done. The Rays haven't won a World Series. They have not won they've not won a championship. Now you can convince me that they've been there and it could have, anything could have happened. Okay, yeah, that's hypothetical. But they have not won a World Series. We all laugh and we make fun of the Dodgers because they've had when people sit here and they're like, well, look at the Dodgers. They've spent all this money. They've won a World Series. If you take what the Dodgers have done and you put them on the Rays, everybody would talk about how unbelievable the Rays system is and how great they are and how beautiful that they've done a good job of winning championships. And this has nothing to do with any of these franchises. It has everything to do with the way that Major League Baseball is structured. The two leagues aren't even close to the same. If you start the season right now and you genuinely asked somebody that wasn't biased before the season started in Major League Baseball, hey, circle the teams that genuinely are going to have a chance to have a 500 or better record. There's not nearly the amount of circles you would get as you would on an NFL sheet. Some will kill me for saying that. Some are going to be mad, but that's the truth.
Reed put in the chat, the MLB has more different champions than the NFL over the last 20 years. I think.
Sure.
Now Reed chimes in. You can't say the NFL has more equality of champions when 4 quarterbacks have won 70% of the championships over the last 20 years. That's fine and dandy, but nobody can argue that winning 4 games isn't easy. Is not easier than winning 4 series. It's impossible in baseball.
I think that there's a chance where we're looking at something at a very, very, very micro level, and that's fine. But let's just see how this all pans out over the course of the next 50 years. Now, I get that that's easy for me to sit up here and say, and it's very hypothetical, but let's just let it play out. Let's see what it looks like. In 50 years, let's see if that's the case.
I agree.
Just because we had maybe some of the greatest quarterbacks of all time in Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes, they've kind of helped that out. They've ruined that little concept of that everybody has a chance. They've ruined that a little bit, if we're being honest. They have. So maybe, perhaps that'll happen again. Maybe there will always be a Brady. Maybe there will always be a Mahomes. Maybe there'll be another guy after Mahomes. The next thing you know, they're going to say, well, you can't win a championship because there's this guy. Maybe that'll happen. Maybe it will. I don't know. But it seems more likely over the course of time that, I don't know, there'll be more opportunities for championships for a league in which it's kind of relatively even than one that has some people spending more money on one player than the entire organization spends on all of their players. I don't know.
That's fair.
Seems like a relatively simple thing, and I don't know how we turn that into a big debate, but we do.
I like it's sports talk. Sports talk when there are no sports. And speaking of,
there are sports. Come on,
going on right now.
Caitlin Clark, did you watch her last night?
I did. Do you have that clip that I sent you earlier, Casey? One more time, can we run it?
No, we're not running that again. It's a kid's show, Elliot.
Well, there's no audio trace.
I get it, but if you can read lips, it's not very hard to read.
I don't know about that. I think it was
really. You want to play a game?
Yeah.
If I gave you $1,000 for what she said, and we had God come down here and 100% tell us for a fact, would you make a? Speaking of gambling, we'll segment into that now. Would you place a sizable wager on whether or not you could justify what she said? I think I fixed I think I put you in a spot where you have to admit that.
Well, if it's God, it's going to be difficult for me to get my way out of that. I can't. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what I can do there. So no, I guess I wouldn't. I guess you're right.
Would you? I'm saying you would place the bet that you know what she said, though.
Yeah, correct. I could not. Exactly. I could not.
We all know what she said.
I could not avoid it. Shohei Ohtani. He spoke for the first time yesterday. He I believe was ignoring questions from reporters for a long time. He wanted to wait for the official statement, which he delivered yesterday. We have a 30-second clip. Again, it's about as, average as what you think it's going to be. So here's that clip.
まずはじめに、僕自身は、何かにかけたりとか、誰かに代わって、そのスポーツイベントにかけたりとか、それをまた頼んだり、っていうことはないですし、僕の口座からブックメーカーに対して、誰かに送金を依頼したことももちろん全く、ありません。
So I never bet on baseball or any other sports, or never have asked somebody to do it on my behalf, and I have never went through a bookmaker to bet on sports.
All right, so this is going to be a debate from now until the end of time. Do you believe him? Do you not believe him? I don't know if we'll ever really get the truth. But
you won't get the truth.
But the fact is I think that we're going to get some clarity now because I believe ultimately he said some things that are concrete in nature that are going to allow there to be some semblance of investigation that's going to be outside of Major League Baseball. If we're talking about wire fraud, if we're talking about true crime, that's what Ohtani was saying happened. This wasn't, if you hid behind the idea that, hey, I was just paying off a friend's debt, this was a mutually exclusive thing, we both agreed to do it. It's hard to have an investigation from a true crime standpoint on that because there's no crime committed. But now we have crossed the line that is going to do one of two things. It's going to showcase the idea that Ohtani is telling the truth, and he will be cleared completely, and his Ipe, I think, is the name, but his old translator will be in serious trouble. Or this is going to be a house of cards, and it's going to fall down, and Ohtani is going to be in a spot where he's going to get questioned if it comes to be that Ipe was not stealing, and there was some kind of semblance of an agreed upon thing here. I'm not going to debate here today whether I believe him or not believe him, because of whatever I believe, whatever you believe, nobody knows what the truth is. If you made me bet on it, pun intended, I would say he's telling the truth, because it seems wild to me that you would be surrounded by a bunch of PR folks that are professionals at that, and you had this long to come up with a story, and that's the route that you're going to take. That 100% is the route you're supposed to go if you 100% did not have anything to do with paying off the gambling debt. If you truly had money stolen from you and you truly did not know nothing about it, that right there is the perfect press conference. It's exactly the way to go about it. We'll find out if that's the case, because the reason I say that is it 100% federal investigation now. There are true federal crimes that were committed. Now, some are going to sit there and suggest that maybe the justice system, geez, I mean, Christmas, to get to the point of whether or not there was truth or not truth there, maybe that's fraudulent as well. I don't know. I'm not here to debate our justice system, but I will say that if Ohtani's telling the truth, that's the way to go about it. The one thing to tie a somewhat funny around this, we had hinted this towards the front of the show. At this point, if you're Pete Rose, you don't really have a whole lot to lose. You're not getting in the Hall of Fame. You've tried. I mean, maybe you continue to make a big bit out of it and you have some fun. But if you didn't see, it is kind of a semblance of a funny, I guess. We'll talk about that here in a minute. But here's what Pete Rose had to say about the Ohtani situation.
Well, back in the 70s and 80s, I wish I'd have had an interpreter. I'd be scot-free.
Yeah, so, hey.
There's Pete. He's just never going to get into the Hall of Fame, is he?
No.
He's given up on it.
I think rightfully so, to be honest. You believe him? You don't believe him? What is there? What did you take away from it as a whole?
I don't believe Shohei Ohtani at all.
You don't believe him?
No.
You think he's lying?
There is video of that second game in Korea. I think it's where they were playing. Or first game, maybe.
We supposedly found out after that.
Allegedly.
Okay, well, I'm just.
But
saying.
even if you just find out immediately following, the story doesn't add up. There's no way you're just talking with your buddy during the middle of the game, and you're just like, oh yeah, by the way, I stole millions from you. No chance, zero chance. I don't, and it goes to a larger thing, and I'll get into that in a minute about gambling in the country. And Reed kind of said it. I don't care if you gamble. I really don't. I've lost interest in it. Half the leagues are sponsored by sports books. You lose the right to be upset at your players when they're gambling when half these games are sponsored by FanDuel. It doesn't make sense. Sure, does it diminish the integrity of the sport? Maybe, yeah. But you lose that right when the MLB Network is sponsored by DraftKings. Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN presented by ESPN Bet. And you're like, oh yeah, Shohei bet a couple times last year? Am I supposed to be shocked? Am I supposed to be disappointed in his ethics? Every single person who watches baseball, maybe not everyone, but a sizable amount gambles on the games. The players are playing fantasy football, and despite what people want to say and argue, fantasy football is still gambling. We have one of our players 2 years ago slap a guy across the face because he didn't pay up or something absurd in a fantasy football league. And I'm supposed to sit here and be mad at Shohei Ohtani for gambling? Now, if he gambled on his team to lose and he was tanking, this guy's the greatest player in the sport. How many MVPs does he have to win before that's not true? Before that gets debunked? So no, if Shohei Ohtani did it, fine. If he didn't do it, whatever. I think he was definitely aware of what was happening. My opinion, of course. But I'm not going to sit here and be upset about it. I think for baseball's sake, they're going to try to cover this up. They're going to try to push this away as quickly as possible. So they can get to their opening day broadcast presented by FanDuel. That's what's going to happen. Do I care if Shohei Ohtani gambled? Not one bit. Not a single bit. And Pete Rose, I'm not a Pete Rose guy, but I thought that was funny.
Really quickly, okay, this is a wild take you got right now. Which, again, people will say, oh, they're on a sports talk show. No, I mean, these opinions, I believe, are 100% like what comes from our heart. We don't come in here and try to stir up unbelievable things, which this is about to turn into a big debate. You're suggesting to me that you don't think that Shohei Ohtani gambling is a problem.
No, not one bit.
And even on baseball.
Not one bit. As long as
what?
As long
kind of take is that?
As long as those bets don't affect his team, no, I don't care.
Come on, Elliot.
But
what do we?
How do you regulate that?
I don't know. You can't regulate it, and that's the thing, Casey. That your entire league is sponsored by gambling apps.
Well, that doesn't mean that the actual part of it.
You can't have it both ways, though. You can't denounce gambling and have
you
every
can.
single broadcast in the sport brought to you by FanDuel, DraftKings, ESPN, Tipico, every sportsbook under the sun. Betfred Sportsbook. You can't do it. It's impossible.
Shout out, Betfred.
Shut up. I'm just saying you can't have it both ways.
Free ads.
And the MLB, it wants to be that pure sport where nothing, we play the right way. It's a moral game. If you're swinging on a 3-0 count when you're up 10 runs, we're going to hit you the next day. Justice. All this nonsense that happens in the MLB, there's more scandals in Major League Baseball than any league ever.
Okay, that's fine, but I mean, to suggest that it's just because you can't control it, or just because you take money from a sports book that can justify the idea that all the players are allowed to gamble on the games is honestly one of. I mean, I don't know. Maybe did you get breakfast this morning? I don't. My point is that has to be the worst take in the history of sports.
What would Shohei Ohtani gambling on the games? What would that affect? What would that affect him?
What do you mean? I mean, that's just that's easily. First of all, these guys have friends. There's guys throughout the league. Hey, I'll throw the game today if you throw it. I know we're allowed to gamble. We just can't gamble on our own teams. It's nonsensical. It's clearly something that you without question could start to have the gray line. There already is guys when it's illegal and the punishment is a lifetime ban that have decided they're still going to take the risk. They're still going to go out on a limb and cheat and do things unethically. We have a guy right now that's suspended for PEDs probably because he had an hamstring issue that I've not made this debate about Marte because I don't want anyone to think that I'm making an excuse, a valid excuse for him, and I don't want anyone to think that I'm trying to defend him with blinders on. But let's face the facts. There's a good chance that Marte found himself in a position where he knew that if he took steroids, it was going to allow his hamstring to heal faster and allow him to get himself into a position to be ready for the season, and it was basically a get-rich-quick scheme that allowed him to move along the healthy spectrum faster, and that's why he did it. I don't think that he did it because he wanted to hit an extra 10 home runs this year. Now, I'm not naive in saying that I don't know 100% why he did it, but point is that cheating is cheating. And gambling is an issue inside of sports when it comes to the actual players playing the game. I think maybe I'm naive. You can be right about this. I think that there's a clear line in the sand between taking sponsorships from an organization for the fans that has nothing to do with the players. Like, just because the arena, right, is sponsored by something doesn't mean that the game itself should be anywhere allowed now to be able to gamble on whatever you want just because Sunday Night Baseball is sponsored by ESPN Bet, then all of a sudden that makes it okay that Major League Baseball players are gambling on games? No, that's 0% chance. Now, as far as gambling on other sports, I don't see a problem there. But again, I think it's one of those things where it's like it's hard to put what's the proverbial phrase that you hear? It's hard to put the toothpaste back in the tube after you let it out. The thing with gambling itself is if you allow players to start gambling on other sports, then it becomes probably harder and harder to figure out exactly what they're doing. So it makes it easier for you to commit fraud, if you want to call it that, or lie. If I'm gambling on my own baseball team, I could then, if I'm allowed to gamble on football, I could tell my bookie, hey, when I make these bets, you're just going to have to phone them in as some other sport. But you know what we're doing here. And then theoretically, that's why they don't allow them to do it. That's fine. But as far as gambling itself, it's like the question ultimately comes down to what type of person are you? Do you truly believe that one bad apple ruins the bunch? Do you truly believe that you're only as strong as your weakest link, and therefore if one thing happens, then it gets canceled for everybody? Or are you somebody that believes that, just because one player's late to practice, everybody shouldn't run? It should just be the one player that was late that should run. Some people believe in two completely different spectrums on how you go about justifying or making some kind of judicial decision on this. I'm of the mindset that you could have gambling, and they can gamble on other sports, but you'd have to have some kind of oversight. And if you're going to take money in, the strongest argument that you could make to me is that if you're going to take money in from a gambling perspective from a league, you should take some of that money, and that should be used as an oversight committee on making sure that these guys aren't gambling on the games.
Let me elaborate.
Please.
I am not okay with gambling on the game. I'm saying that if your league is sponsored by gambling apps, you lose the right to get upset when your players are doing it. That's my point. And if it's on the games, it's on the games. Because when I tune into a Reds broadcast on Bally Sports, I hear the Sam LaCure pick of the day presented by FanDuel. And you can go down the line of every example in the world. Do I think gambling on sports is wrong if you're a player in the game? Yeah. But it's all sponsored by gambling now. You've welcomed it in. The toothpaste is way out of the tube now. The tube has been thrown away. It's just out there for the world. So, yeah, I do agree with you. I do think you shouldn't be allowed to gamble on your team. I don't think you should be able to gamble on player props. The NBA is dealing with the situation right now with Jonte Porter.
I'm going to throw something out there that some people might freak out about, but I'm going to ask a genuine question.
Sure.
Let's just say a player has some kind of a public intoxication thing. Since the stadium is sponsored by alcoholic beverages everywhere, do you find that would be okay as well?
To what, drink a beer in the
dugout?
No.
I'm saying for the player's perspective.
Absolutely, you can drink a beer in the dugout. I think they did it for years. You don't think they did it for years?
I'm saying no. I'm saying actually partaking in that. You think that's fine?
Partaking in what?
In whatever they're promoting, you think that they could be actively partaking in?
I think you lose the right to be upset when the players are doing it. When the players' finances or the team's finances are directly affected by those said sponsorships. Yeah.
I just think we'll have differing opinions on it.
And that's fine. That's fine.
Okay.
That's fine. I'm just saying, I see everybody, it's ruining the integrity of the sport. What are we doing? The integrity of the sport's been gone for a while.
When?
What do you mean when?
When has it been gone for a while?
Let's just start with the Astros. Let's start with the Astros and the cheating thing. That nobody was punished for it, really. I mean, they were technically punished, but that was a pretty big thing. The World Series was kept. They found that the Astros cheated, and then didn't take away the World Series because, quote, it's a piece of metal. Does that not lose the integrity of the sport?
Yes, but there's certainly a very, very, very strong attempt by the league and the game itself to make sure that doesn't happen. Are we trying to debate whether or not if something happens, then just throw hell or high water? You can never,
No,
you can't stop it. You can't stop it. So don't try.
I'm tired of the baseball honor committee making things like, it's gambling so wrong. Your league is presented by 4 different gambling apps. There's been instances of open cheating in baseball that haven't been punished. So I'm lost. I'm lost on the ethics of baseball. It's lost on me. And again, should Shohei Ohtani be punished if they found out he was gambling? Sure, but it shouldn't be a lifetime ban. I'm out on that too. It's a punishment. Get over it. We'll go 80 games. Noelvi Marte's a cheater. He got caught. He's serving 80 games. He's not allowed to play in the postseason. That's it.
I think that's a fair point. That cheating is cheating in some realm of fashion. So why does one form of cheating so much more ridiculed than the other? And I think it comes down to basically the social status of what those things are. One could make the argument that PEDs could have just as big of an impact as perhaps a guy gambling, but I don't think that you can. I don't think. I would say
PEDs might be worse.
I don't think so because you could throw a game purposely. PEDs are an attempt to become better. It doesn't guarantee it.
Maybe, but the player in question is the best player in baseball. So I'm saying, if your argument is that he's betting on he's losing games on purpose for the Los Angeles Angels, it's not happening.
Are you sure?
Positive.
I mean, the Angels didn't really win a whole lot.
No.
In
But
fact,
they haven't won. They haven't won a
In fact,
whole.
the joke was always that the Angels were maybe had the world's best baseball players in the world, and we all remember and reminisce about the tweet about the A's set 2 world records and did all of this, and then they lost 5-2 to the Tigers. Maybe they just had the world's best gambling circuit running down there.
Maybe they did.
Investigate Trout while we're at it.
Maybe they did. And this brings me to my next point. In the NBA, the Toronto Raptors center, Jonte Porter, he's out. He was out of the lineup yesterday after the NBA investigates into irregularities on his prop bets. So that means there were people betting significantly more than ever before on certain nights of his props where he magically then goes off. And this is a guy that doesn't play a ton. So this is now crossing into all other leagues. Calvin Ridley got suspended for it.
Can I say this?
Sure.
When you introduce the gambling in the way it's been in the way in which it's been kind of socialized or it's been brought to the masses, because gambling has always existed, 100%. There's been back roads, obviously, black market, I guess is the term I'm looking for here. There's always been bookies, etc. Now, there might not have been nearly the amount of options you could have gambled on. Like, I don't know if you have player props, per se, on these lower-level players when you have an old bookie, but that's just wasn't happening. But my main point is that it's always existed in some form or fashion, but when you have done what they've done, and you've made it mainstream, as they say, you open yourself up to this opportunity. The question ultimately becomes, who's at fault? And I think the answer is that everybody's at fault to a small extent. And what the punishment should be, I don't know. Lifetime ban. The lifetime ban, I think, is there because they know how hard it is to have jurisdiction. They know how hard it is to prove people whether they did it or didn't do it. So what they've done is they've made the punishment for it so egregiously tough and bad that they try to de-incentivize it as much as humanly possible.
Yeah.
For instance, another terrible analogy of the day. If you knew, now this is going to get pretty morbid, so bear with me, but it's what came to my mind. I'm not trying to suggest this, but I'm just saying this proves my point. If you knew that if you drove down I-75 more than 10 miles an hour over and you got caught, you got decapitated, guess what? You would be frantically looking at your speedometer the whole entire way down, making sure that you didn't go 10 over. But guess what? The rule is that you get a $135 ticket or whatever it might end up being, so you're not really as concerned, right?
Yep.
That's why I think they make the rule what they do in Major League Baseball, because they don't want people gambling on the games, and they're concerned about how hard it would be to justify or come to the grips. We have a guy who had claimed he didn't bet on baseball for how long? And realistically speaking, Major League Baseball came to a settlement agreement with Pete Rose. They didn't actually prove, I mean, you could say they did, but they didn't actually prove 100% that he did it. They just came to a settlement to try to, and Pete Rose took it, to try to clear his name. Or make sure that it was something that just got buried in the sand, and then he just kind of was able to walk away and he could claim his innocence for his entire lifetime. Now we all know that changed over time, and he kind of wanted to go back and change the way that all went down. And maybe it could have been, if the commissioner obviously didn't pass away, that ultimately was the one that gave him the settlement, if you want to call it that. But hey, I think the only reason we spent this long on it is because you thought it was you were trying to justify that it was okay. I get what you're saying. You're saying that ultimately,
and again, I'm not saying that gambling on your games.
They can't be surprised at this point.
You can't be surprised.
That's more than fair.
I'm not going to be mad at Shohei Ohtani for gambling. I'm not going to do it. I don't care. Let him do it.
Do you think Epay is just literally being the fall man here?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. And I bet he's getting paid handsomely for it. He'll disappear into the sun, never to be heard of again, but he will live a great life, I bet.
You think he's gonna be neighbors with P. Diddy?
I mean, that's tough. I mean, that's a tough allegation there to be thrown around. No, I do not.
Okay, I was just wondering.
No, I do not.
They got to go somewhere. I'm just saying.
Maybe.
I mean, you read the news. It's not hard to figure out what's going on in the world. Not the best things. By the way, I do also understand there are more important things in this world than what we talk about on the show, which is why we don't really bring up things like the bridge in Baltimore. Certainly, prayers to them. But when I'm hosting the show, the goal is to try to talk sports and keep it at that. I'm not really looking to get into politics or world debates on what things should be or shouldn't be. If I make a reference to something like P. Diddy, it's basically just to make you laugh or make you smile or make your day a little bit better. Certainly what P. Diddy did, if he did do those things, is quite gross and disgusting. But gambling is it's here to stay, and there's too much money in it now. So unfortunately, money runs the world, and you find yourself in positions where once you get a certain amount of money coming in from some revenue stream, it's never going to go away. So gambling's here to stay. They're going to have to figure out how to deal with it. I know Shohei Ohtani here was the last discussion point.
Is there a way to deal with it?
Yeah, I think that there's a way to deal with it.
What's your opinion on a player betting their own player prop over? They're not allowed to bet the under, but if you bet your own player prop over,
I think what you're doing is you're opening up the idea of allowing something that is unbelievably hard to jurisdict. Like if you make it to where you're allowed to do it, that is a whole nother rabbit hole you have to start investigating, and you add up all the players that in Major League Baseball, it is impossible to keep up with. If you make it to where if you do it at all, if you gamble at all, it's a lifetime ban, guess what? It's a lot easier. One, you're going to have a significant amount of players that are going to be scared of that rule, right? Let's just say there is a handful that could care less about the lifetime ban. They think they're going to get away with it anyways. Okay. Then when you actually have to investigate any of them, all you have to do is get any semblance of evidence that they've gambled on something, and guess what? Your case is over. It's dismissed. You have your case. It's end of story. But if you make it to where they're allowed, now you not only have to go in and find out, okay, yeah, they're gambling. That's legal. But then you got to go in and find out if they are not betting the over. That's why they don't do it. They don't.
Sure.
Like,
what about
not to scare everybody, but the reason that the IRS is the same, all of these things are impossible to jurisdict because there's too many people. So they go after the small semblance of things that are grossly grotesque. Like it's crazy over the top, and that's why they go after those folks. I mean, that's why I kind of laugh sometimes when I hear I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't get into this, but when I hear, people screaming and yelling about the little side hustle they got going on, and they don't want to use Venmo because they think the government's after them. It's like, yeah, okay. Okay, Johnny, you're cutting grass. You're worried about, you think the IRS is going to be breathing down your neck because you didn't pay $20 in IRS taxes? Okay. Keep it moving. But I am glad that there are people overly concerned about the rules in this country. That's good. I like rule followers are great. What were you going to ask?
I was going to ask do you have an issue with players gambling in other leagues?
No.
So wouldn't you say the door's open?
No, you can't bet on the sport that you play. How is there not a clear line in the sand there? You can't bet on the sport that you play. Pretty clear. No?
I guess that's true. I guess you're right. I'm just not going to sit here surprised, and that's the last.
It is Mark says it's slippery slope. It is a slippery slope. I'm not here to debate that. I just think that there's a clear difference between betting on an NFL game and gambling on your own league that you play in. Isn't that insider trading?
Yeah, I think it is.
So that's why you can't do it.
I think it is a little bit, but what if you're betting the over? What if you're betting on yourself to do good?
Because then you might have more privy information that the rest of the world doesn't have. If you know that the starting pitcher on the other side has some kind of ailment or whatever it may be, should you legally be allowed to gamble on something that you know more about than everyone else? Maybe you could answer yes. I don't know. I don't know. Fine. I guess I'm to the point, too, where I'm becoming – I have a lot of apathy towards a lot of things. I guess at this point, as long as the game is being played to the highest quality that it could be played at, to where no one's trying to tank, then, yeah, I don't give a rat's tail about all of it.
Reed wants to know, should ball players have to register their gambling accounts to be monitored?
I mean, that's a more than fair point.
That's a way you could do it.
Yeah, but then you're always gonna
be
have the
impossible,
fall
but you could
guy.
do it.
You're gonna have Ipe being the guy that's gambling for Ohtani. Blah blah blah.
Not to mention some of them are still probably using bookies, so it's going to be difficult to find them.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to cheat and you want to scam the system, guess what? There's probably a good chance that you can do it some way, somehow, if you really wanted to. So
that's it.
I don't think that's the last point I'll make about all this is that if you really wanted to scam the system anyways, even if sports betting wasn't legal, Pete Rose bet on baseball when gambling was looked upon as being completely evil. So you can't stop somebody that wants to cheat anyways. Do you make it more advantageous to your point? Yeah. Do you make it to where it's more of an open opportunity? Certainly. But I just can't get behind the train that you can allow people that play in a league to gamble on said league. That seems the one thing too is it's a bad apple on gambling. That's the other thing. To be fair, I actually think that you can gamble and you can actually not be somebody that has an issue and you treat it as entertainment. That population exists. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Elliot, I think the vast majority of the population are those people. I don't think there's that many people that actually have a gambling addiction. The same as smoking, the same as drinking alcohol, the same as many other, maybe what people would consider toxic traits. Some people golf too much, if we're being honest. I don't know. And now you might say, well, how could you golf too much? I'm just saying, there's things in your life that you should probably take care of. If you're not able to afford your house payment, you live your life how you want. But I'm just saying, if you can't afford your house payment and you have kids that you need to feed, if you're golfing every single day and you're spending all your money on that, so be it. Lottery tickets. There's a million things that are crutches or devices in this country that people can't contain themselves upon. So that ultimately comes down to the final question of the morality of gambling. Do a few bad apples ruin the whole bunch? And this country has proven time and time and time again, the answer to that is what? No.
Yeah.
Because if so, there's a lot of things you could start trying to strip and rip away. And alcohol is probably at the top of the list.
Reed says he's addicted to baseball. Do you have any comment on that?
Nah, he's not as much as I am.
Drew Garrison.
I'm ready to hit at any moment of any day. Problem is, I've never been invited to play in the baseball league that he plays in. In fact, I was invited once.
He's never invited you to play in his league? Because I remember a moment when Reed specifically invited you to play.
Reed invited me one time. One time. And there was one time where I said I would go. Now, the problem is I don't even know if I have baseball. I don't have baseball pants, I don't believe anymore. I don't believe I have cleats anymore. You want me to hit?
Yeah.
This is dangerous.
You're a lefty, right?
Yeah, I'm ready to hit. Just throw it up here. Yoshi's gonna take this.
You ready?
I'm ready.
Look at that.
Look at that.
Look at that.
Yeah. So here's the thing. Reed told me, hey, you're welcome to come. Come on in. And then he drops an hour before the game starts. He says, I can't get you an at-bat, though. I can't guarantee you an at-bat. I want you to come and play in this adult men's baseball league, but you're just going to be an all-time fielder. God, man, nothing screams, let me come to that as fast as I can than that. So, yeah, maybe I'll tell you what. I'm open to playing. Now, the problem is I do think I'm in a spot where I don't know how good I'll end up being anymore. One would argue I never was a good hitter in the first place. But, yeah, I'm more concerned now of getting hurt.
Are those lines available on FanDuel already? Opening day lines?
No,
betting lines?
I don't. Somebody would have to dig into that. I don't believe so.
Let me look. I think they
Alex Wallace says great radio. Hey, we're not on the radio yet. But I can't wait for this show to actually do some things like that on the radio. That'll be fantastic.
That'll be great. Hey, Trace, hit this thing.
Yeah. Hey, Trace, hit this.
And then the radio has to figure out what we're hitting.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I don't see him. So whatever.
Hey, I have another complaint. One thought process here for YouTube. Why hasn't YouTube done this yet? Maybe someone smarter than me can figure it out. How come you can't listen to the audio only of this show? Like if you're just kind of like going on a run or you're driving, you can't really like watch the show. You just want to listen to it
on YouTube.
If you
correct
have,
on
you,
YouTube.
If you have the YouTube membership, you can. I think.
Yeah.
If you have the YouTube.
I kind of get away with it by just if you have Apple, you can just kind of like slide your phone down like to this.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can see that.
Does it still run the video though? Because it kills your battery.
I mean, it still runs for me.
Nick had said Everett now chimes in with a brilliant statement. Says that YouTube's a video platform. Everett, you got it, brother. I mean, you've never been more right. The only thing I was thinking, though, Everett, was that maybe there are times where you'd like to have an alternative, like Spotify.
That's why you have the podcast.
Let's just say Spotify, Spotify, sometimes they have video, but sometimes you're like, you know what, for my data-saving purposes, I'd like to just listen to the audio only.
To be fair, there's some content out there that is video-based, like on YouTube, that you could listen on podcasts, but they don't have it on other platforms, so... I feel that. I understand your pain.
Colton chimes in and says Twitch is a streaming platform, but they allow audio only. It certainly seems like something that would be easy to implement. I don't understand it. I'm just asking the simple questions as to where if I wanted it, why can't I have it? That's all. I'd like the powers of YouTube to tell me why. And you know what I bet the answer is?
Yeah.
It's got something to do with their advertisements, and they're not allowed to run their ads without the video or something stupid.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, Casey, I've got a cherry on top if that's okay.
What do you got?
It's this Calipari video.
This?
Who's it presented by?
This is presented by United Dairy Farmers, UDF. This is the cherry on top.
What do you like at United Dairy Farmers?
I get, what kinds of things? I usually get, if I go, I like the ice cream. I get chocolate chip cookie dough.
Okay.
I don't drink coffee. I like their They have good cookies. I sometimes get bananas from there.
Have you had a malt?
I've had a malt.
Can I admit something?
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever gotten a malt from there. I've always gotten milkshakes, which I've gotten a lot of milkshakes from there. But, pause. What's the United Dairy Farmers cherry on top? That's why this show's the best. What do you want me to do? I'm just being honest.
This is Coach Cal. He's promising his fan base that he's going to be better. He's going to work. It's a commitment. He's committing. And they're going to be better off for it. So here's Coach Cal, clearly fighting for his job.
Let me finish on this stuff, Tom. I talked again about the standard that is the standard that I believe in, that I think we can do. But that standard of national titles has been here from Coach Rupp on. And the only thing that I'm saying to all our fans, I'm going to work in our state, work for this program and this university, really work for these young people. And that's my commitment. I'm not changing. 24/7, let's go. Whether it's recruiting, all the stuff that we've got to do. That is a commitment that I give to the fans, and I haven't changed. This is like wearing a coat. It never goes away. But I love it. This is what I want. This is what I wanted. This is why I never left. This is it. And now let's come together and let's go do something. Let's do something special. And we can do it. We've done it. Let's do it again.
He's not changing. He's not going to change. He's done it before, and he's going to do it again. And he's not changing. He's fine losing to Oakland and St. Peter's. He's fine with it. You're fine with it. He's going to bring basketball back to the great state of Kentucky. And he's going to do it great. But he's not going to change. He's not going to change because he's done it before. Man.
I'll tell you what, if you're a Kentucky fan, you can take great solace in that speech. I'm not sure exactly what that was supposed to do. Maybe it was supposed to rile the troops. Maybe it was supposed to make them believe he's still committed. Hey, he's committed. There's no doubt about it. I can tell you, I got millions of reasons as to why he should be committed. There's no doubt. But the reason that maybe perhaps he should just look in the mirror and take a step back is he's got to stop being so condescending when the fan base, who, by the way, pays for his salary. I mean, I know that can get lost on some people, but let's not act like that's not the reason that the head coach of Kentucky doesn't make as much money as they do, is because there are a lot of people that care a lot about that program, and they are not happy when they don't win. So when you don't win, guess what's going to happen? They're going to be upset at you. Then you can't turn around and be spiteful towards those folks. I get you can be frustrated from time to time, but he openly mocks this fan base. I'm not a fan of the fan base. I'm looking from the outside. I listen to the man, and I think he's openly making fun of the people that love his program. Now, he can sit there and rightfully so think he's smarter than the guy that sits at Waffle House. Hey, I get that. But sometimes you got to bite your tongue. You got to understand that if you're not getting it done, maybe, just maybe, you got to find a different way. If you're Coach Cal at this point and you say you're not going to change, then what is going to happen? What's going to happen? You continue to get these world-class recruits in. Like, when we're talking world-class, this isn't just like a good recruiting class. This is like the best recruiting classes of all time. He's got legacy players on his team. Like, his team this year had legacy players on it. He's got 2 guys that are going to be lottery picks. And he's out here just
he's not going to change.
Giving a speech that he's not going to change.
He's not changing.
That's the part where maybe he didn't mean it like that, but man,
You say you.
what a wild thing to say. What a wild thing to say after 4 or 5 years of basically ineptitude. Failure. Complete failure.
I couldn't believe they've only not winning in March Madness. Fine, that's terrible, but not only winning 1 conference tournament game since 2019. What the hell is that about? That's almost impossible.
Pressure. When you sit at the podium and you say to everybody, the only thing that matters here is March, and we got a team built for March. And you just scoff at the ideas that your defense isn't any good, and you just laugh at everybody when they act like there's a problem. Well, when it doesn't go right, what do you think's going to happen? It sounded like a man to me, and I could be wrong here, but it sounded like a man to me for the first time in his career. There is a real chance, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but there's a real chance that they show him the door. That's what I heard. Now, whether that's true or not, we'll all find out. But I know one thing that's true. We won't be here tomorrow because Nick Kirby's going to be doing the show. The next time we come your way, at least on our end, will be Thursday. It's going to be opening day.
I think we're doing something different for that. Do you have any announcement for that?
We will be doing something a little bit different for that. On opening day, we will be doing a show from 8A. That's early. 8A to 10A on opening day, 8A to 10A with ESPN 1410 Wing AM, Justin Kenner. And we will be live from the concourse at Great American Ballpark. That is if we don't get canceled. I want to throw that out there. There's a chance of that. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe there isn't, but I'm just going to throw it out there. There's a chance. Who knows?
Well, I think
maybe they heard the Chatterbox guys are coming, and they're just showing the door. Just like Cal might.
I think they might have heard that you said if smoking isn't addictive. I think they might have heard that, and they might cancel you for it.
Smoking is what?
You said smoking wasn't addictive.
No, I said that there's anything that can be addictive. Smoking, alcohol. Did you not hear me right? I might have to go back and listen to the tape.
I think we might have to go listen to that tape. I think there was a chance. I think you might have slipped up on one of them.
No, I said that. No.
Yeah.
You're talking about earlier in the show. Now we're going to get off the rails. It is not 12p yet, so I'm not allowed to do this, I guess. Are you suggesting to me when I said that we're supposed to believe all the experts? Because I believe at one time the experts told us that smoking wasn't addictive. Is that what you're talking about?
I don't know if you said it like that. I don't think if you said
that's exactly how
we'll have to go rewatch that tape.
Do you not have a brain sometimes? You listen to the show? I think sometimes you sit over there and you don't even listen.
We'll have to go rewatch that tape.
Which explains a lot. All right, we come your way every single day from 10A to 12P. It's 12P. It's 12P-ish. It's 12P. Tomorrow we will not be on air. We are going to be making sure that we do our best to do the Nuxall Classic with Prasco Park. So we are going to take our talents there tomorrow, and Nick Kirby is going to take it away. Elliot's trying to throw me a football as I close out the show. He can throw it whenever he wants because I'm going to catch it because I'm an athlete, and that's what I mean. So tomorrow, enjoy Nick, enjoy Craig, Enjoy the wonderful lineup of guests. Get your positive Reds news tomorrow. Today, we try to be as positive as we could. We love you because you watch this show regardless, and sometimes we wonder why, but you're our friends, and we consider you our friends as well. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your day. We won't see you tomorrow.